The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create another calculated field. And in this one, I'm going to give you a lot of freedom in how you approach it. It's kind of a creative exercise that I'm going to show you how to do, but you can kind of make it your own. And what we're going to do is we're going to create like a nutritional score for a product. And what a nutritional score is different diet plans usually score products by measuring how much fat they have or how much sodium they have. Maybe it's carbohydrates. It can vary depending upon the structure. But whether it's Weight Watchers or it's an Atkins diet or different types of diets, a lot of times they'll have what's like a nutritional points or a nutritional score that will give some kind of value as to what that particular food product means. And I'll give you an example here on Diet Facts. We have an unofficial point score and an old point score. And these are points that basically tell somebody who's going on a diet how much this particular food is consuming of their points. And when you get to it and you've used up your points for the day, or you exceed it, you know you've eaten too much, or you've eaten too much of the wrong thing. So we can make our points based on anything we want. We could take it by how much sodium is in the product, or how much fat, or you could, maybe do it by calories. And so what your exact points are is up to you, and how you score this particular product is up to you. What I'm going to do is show you how to create that functional field, again, a calculated field or computed field that will do this calculation for you. Now, again, if you're really ambitious about being an Odoo developer, remember, we've already in a previous video looked at how to add up and total all the calories. So you can pause the video at any time, but what I'm giving you now are some tips on how you might approach this. And one of the first approaches is to take the calories calculation that you totaled up the calories for your meal. Well, we're going to do the same thing to total up a product score or a diet score, a nutritional score, if you will, for each of these products. And in this case, let's say, for example, you wanted to take and weight fat or protein in, that you're going to loop through these nutrients on your product and come up with a score that you will then assign to the product. So we're going to have a nutritional score that's going to be a computed field. It's going to be stored in your product template, and you're going to loop through your nutrients, and depending upon your own personal score, you're going to be able to create a nutritional score that works for you. And maybe you want to go to a magazine or look up one that maybe people really use. But for our purposes, we're going to do this real quickly, just using just our own creative way of scoring the nutritional value of these products. So if you did pause the video and you tried to create your own score, that's great, and created your own compute field. Well, now I'm going to show you how I would approach it and how we would quickly create a functional field for our product, building on what we've learned, but maybe putting our own little creative twist in how we do the calculation. So we go here and let's pull up our diet facts, and we know that we're going to want to add our functional field to our product template. And so we're going to say nutrition score equals fields dot. And remember, we always have the type that we want it to be. And in this case, I'm going to make it a float because we're going to be doing calculations. And I can say string equals nutrition score, just to get that out of the way. And then we, remember, have compute equals, and we give a function name. And this thing, I'll just say calc score, just like that. And I typed this out just from memory, but what you could have done is come down here and looked at what we've got down here under our total calories. And notice how we have a store equals true. Let's go ahead and add that. So it's the same. Nutrition score as a float, and we're going to use compute. Calc score is going to be the name of our function. Now, what I can do is I can copy this right here and come back up here and paste it. And if you went this route, good for you. And so I'm putting my calculation here, and I can copy my compute and paste it here. Now I know that this is going to need to change. Well, I'm going to recalculate my nutrition score when my nutrient IDs change inside. So if we add or remove any kind of nutrients, or we want to do it whenever our nutrient IDs, value changes. So when we change the values of our nutrients here in our nutrient templates, then we're going to want to change our total. So we're going to be going off the value of these, you know, how much weight, how much fat there is. It's always going to be based on value. So I know I want that to change. And so we want to also have a current score to start with that we'll manipulate. So we're going to have a current score, and you can decide maybe you want your score to start at 100 and go down, so you want higher numbers to be better, or you want, you know, lower numbers to be better. Maybe you want to adjust and make a more complex score that takes away when it's sodium and takes away when it's fat, but then adds in when it's protein. All of that is up to you. But what we're going to be doing here is, say, for each nutrient in, and we don't want item IDs, right? We want nutrient IDs. So we're going to loop through all the nutrient IDs here, each one of them, and we're going to then change our score. Now, let's just, for the sake of testing, have it take our nutrient, whatever it happens to be, and take the value and just add it on. So we're going to take, for each one of our nutrients in our nutrient IDs, we're just going to take whatever that value happens to be, add it to our current score, and then therefore we're going to have our nutrition score equal our current score at the end. So what have I done here? I've made a nutrition score that basically is just adding up the total values from the nutrients. It doesn't do anything computational wise that has any kind of real value, but what it will do is let us test what we're trying to do. So I'm going to take this nutrition score that I've added as a functional field to our model, and I'm going to Control C and restart our server. I know that this is going to add our functional field nutrient score to our table. Now I need to add it to our view. And in this case, we're going to put it up at the top. So I can say copy and paste. So we want this to be in the header of our product, just like our total calories was in the header of our meal. And I'm going to come here now, and I'm going to grab that nutrition score and paste it in here. So we've pasted everything. I'm going to move it a little closer. We'll move it to calories so it shows up there. And we can go ahead and put it also in our tree view as well. So now our products have our diet items have nutritional scores. We'll go ahead and restart, make sure we don't get any errors because it's found our field. Everything's fine, working like it's supposed to. So now let's see what our arbitrary nutritional scores show up as here. We'll go down to diet items. And there you can see 35, 8, and these are all 0, but because we haven't added any nutrient items. But what's happening is you can see it's taking the nutrient value of 20, it's adding to it the 15, and if we come over here, we can see that totals up to 35. Okay. So as we add additional nutrients, we can add, let's see which ones we got here already. We got some sodium we can add. Let's add 40 grams of sodium. We can expect that this 40 now is going to get totaled up in, and now we got a nutritional score of 75. So right now all we are is just adding these numbers up. But that's where the creative part comes in. That's where I'm going to ask you to be a little creative here and decide, okay, how can I maybe create my own score that looks at specific nutrients, that would look at something just the way that I would want them. And I'm going to use this total fat and the sodium to change our score. And I might throw in calories too for the heck of it. But let's go ahead and make some changes in our calculated score, just so you can see. And I want you to be creative and make your own changes. But let's see how we can do that. Right now we're just adding on this nutrient value. But let's instead not do it that way. Let's instead say, what if the nutrient ID name equals protein. Actually, let's use sodium, because that's not as good a thing. Then we're going to take this score and we're going to add to it the nutrient value times 5. And we want this, I think, to have a double thing. So if our nutrient that we're on, and then we look up the nutrient ID that you see right here, and then we got to get the name of it. So that's why we're going to the nutrient ID, and then we're checking the name. If it's sodium, we're going to take the current score equals the current score and add to that whatever the value is of sodium. And we know this is the sodium value because we're in the if. We're going to multiply it by 5. And let's go ahead and save that and rerun. Make sure we don't get any errors, because we've added in an if statement. We've added in some complexity. And now we can see here that this is 40. It's going to multiply that by 5, so that's going to be pretty high. And it doesn't really matter. It's all relative. We're just seeing how we can come up with our own nutritional score. Now notice that it's still showing 30. It's still showing 75. Why is it still showing 75 even though we changed the calculation? It's because that we're storing the data, and none of the values that we've changed here, none of them have changed. But if I change sodium here to 41 and I hit save, now Odoo's going to go through and do the recalculation. Notice how we went to 205. Our nutritional score went to 205. Why it went to 205 is because we're taking and multiplying our sodium times 5. If we wanted to, we could divide by 5. So we'll save. We'll restart. And now we can divide by 5. If I change this to 0 and save, we know that our score is going to be 8. And there it is. So that wraps up this video. We've covered a lot of ground again. And in the next lecture, we'll continue to move on in more advanced Odoo development.